Hey everybody, welcome back to Art a la Carte. Today I'm going to try something new to see if it works. And that is to use this antique paper that I've had forever. I bought this probably over 10 years ago, and so that almost makes it true antique paper. But I got it at a craft store. It's meant to look like antique paper. It's really super thin. It's kind of starchy. And I want to see if I can do a portrait on it. I don't know. The thing I find the most fun about art is trying and figuring things out. See what works, what doesn't work. I have no clue if this is going to work, but we're going to give it a go and see what we can create. So I'm going to just sketch out a face in here. It seems to erase fine. It's not seeming to damage the paper at all. The paper's pretty tough. I just don't know how well Copic markers are going to absorb into it or not. So that'll be kind of the test. Technically, if I was doing this the right way, I would just use one of these papers as a test page before I put work into making an art. But I don't feel like it. I feel like just jumping into the deep end right now. Don't care if I can't swim. Okay, so I've got the sketch pretty much, at least the front. I don't know how I'm going to close it off, but let's go ahead. So I know that the Copic multi-liners obviously work, as well as the Sakura microns. But this one is from Spectrum Noir, so also a alcohol-based marker set. So I'm pretty sure this one would work too. But what is your favorite part of the process? I kind of narrow it down into 3 parts: the sketch, the inking, and the coloring. I think for me, I like them all. Sketch is the least stressful for me, but it's also where most of my pieces die. So I'm always excited when I get to move on to the inking part, because it meant it survived this sketch phase. I have so many pieces that never make it past sketch. Like if I were to do 50 drawings or sketches, maybe 3 of them would make it to the inking in stage. And then from there, it's another 50-50 chance that it will make it from inking into the actual coloring phase. Inking was really challenging for me, and so if you find you hate the inking process, just don't give up on that. Of those failed sketches, use them, and even though they won't turn out to be a good piece, use them to practice your inking, because you're not going to mess it up because it's already been messed up. So don't just crumple and throw away your drawings. Use them to continue learning other skills, practicing on those. What's your favorite part of the face to draw? I've always loved the eyes. They're my favorite. So the paper is really slick, so the ink doesn't want to grab on as quickly. So I'm finding that with this, so it's not waxy, but almost like a waxy texture. So I feel I have to either really push the ink into the paper. Like if I was just to run really quickly over it, it's just not going to pick it up. But so I have to really kind of dig the ink in there. It's an interesting texture. Alright, so I think the initial sketch is done. Let's pull up a little bit of the pencil work. So once we lay the Copics on there, it kind of seals any pencil in there, and it's really hard to pull it up. I'm not worried about getting like all of my pencil marks up. I like a little under sketch. There she is. All right, let's test this out. Let's lay in a light skin tone and we'll build this up. And I'm feeling like this is not gonna work. It's just kind of like floating on the top of this paper. I use a really light skin tone, so it's hard to tell. Let's grab a really darker brown and play with that on her. So you can kind of see how, I don't know if you can see it, the ink just stays really wet. Usually, Copic markers absorb into the paper really quickly and dry that way. So this one I'm actually having to wait for the alcohol to evaporate, which then allows me to really get some textures in there. So it's different, not necessarily bad. I haven't written it off yet. But not optimal for Copic markers. If you're really used to how Copics work on paper, there's definitely a curve to using this paper as opposed to regular paper. And I don't think it rubs off. No, once it dries, it's there, but if you touch it while it's still wet, it'll obviously pick up on your fingers, so you don't want to run your hand through it while it's still wet. A lot of work to get it to where I would feel comfortable with this paper. And yeah, it doesn't lay other colors on top. It just wants to pick up the other color. Again, this is really a lighter shade. See, I can kind of just almost erase, like there in her hair, I can just erase it out. So in saying this, I will not be using this paper to make my 100 character draw challenge. Nope. See, normally I could lay in my red blush this, like that, and then go in with a lighter tone, like this R12, and blend it out. But see, it's not, it's just picking it up and erasing it. It's not blending it out. So I think if you really wanted to have controlled and know exactly what it's going to do color, I think going in with acrylic paint on this would be, or maybe a gouache, I don't know, gouache is kind of wet. But I don't think an alcohol marker is going to work. So let's switch over in a minute and see what colored pencils do. So I started outlining it with this like tealish green blue color that I have, and it definitely took it in a direction I didn't want it to go. So I'm going to see if I can lay over a black brush, if I have one. Let's see, it didn't dry, so it's kind of smeared on me. Luckily, I haven't stamped that onto anything else. You want to really watch that until it dries. There we go. So, final thoughts. It's fun to play with. Not what I would use for Copic. So it did get this really kind of cool look with the markers. It really kind of mimicked watercolor paint a lot more. Took color pencils okay, except you can't burnish it out, so if you're looking for something smooth, it's not that great. I found that the ink, if it had a high flow rate, that it kind of would feather, and it takes forever for it to dry. Like, even now I'm still pulling stuff off. Yeah, fun to play with, not what I would go back to though. So if you would like to follow along on my adventures and my art journey, make sure to subscribe to this channel so you don't miss out on a future video. You can ring that notification bell and it'll let you know each time I upload a new video. As always, thank you so much for hanging out with me. God bless you guys. Keeping awesome, creative, trying new things. And until next time, we'll see you in another art video. Bye-bye.